Hello everyone and welcome. In this video, we will explore one of the core concepts in mathematics called vector addition. Consider we have two vectors, u and v. Let's say u is this one and we have v. The first point is when they have the same initial point. This if they have the same initial point, and the second is when the head of the first one is the head of the second. So this video will answer the following questions. One is what happens when these two vectors combine, and the second is how do we calculate the resulting vector and its magnitude. There are different ways to add vectors. One is the graphical method, we call it sometimes tail to head method, and the second is the algebraic method, or we call it component wise method. We use the graphical method when we have the case when the vectors are arranged tail to tail or tail head, like these graphs. Under graphical method, we have two ways or two laws. So the first one is we have triangular law, and the second is we call it parallelogram law. We use the triangular law when the vectors are arranged head to tail. So that is if the head of the first vector is the tail of the second vector, then the result is, or the resultant vector goes from the tail of the first vector to the head of the second vector, so which is u plus v. And we use the parallelogram law when the vectors are arranged tail to tail. That is, let's call this is if we have u and v, so these two vectors are arranged tail to tail, or if they have the same initial point. Then to use the parallelogram law, we need to draw a parallelogram using the vectors. So that is, we by using a parallel translation or by drawing a parallel line, so we can draw u here and use a parallel translation again to draw v and have a parallelogram. So the vectors, as you see, they are arranged head to tail. So that is the head of the first one is the tail of the second. And the resulting vector is this one, u plus v, or the diagonal of a parallelogram. So one of the question would be, how can you calculate the magnitude of the resulting vector? So we can use a cosine law. So if you remember, if you have given a triangle and if there is an angle between the sides here, so for us we are considering the vectors. So we have a vector u and a vector v. They can make an angle. So let's call that angle is theta. So using the cosine law, which is expressed by the norm of u plus v, the whole square is the same as norm of, or the square of the sides, which is norm of u square plus norm of v square minus 2 norm of u times norm of v cosine of theta. So this we call it cosine law. So this is the formula that helps us to find the magnitude of the resultant vector, or the sum of the two vectors. So the same is true here. So if u and v make theta here, an angle theta, then, but we are considering this angle here because we are adding these sides and these sides here. So this theta is, this angle measure 180 minus theta, because if you remember the property of a parallelogram, one of its property is the sum of the corresponding angles are supplementary. So if you add any two consecutive angles, they will give you 180 degree. So we use this one. And the second method is an algebraic method. So let's consider, or the component wise method. So let's consider U and V, which are from n space, or the Euclidean space, n-dimensional Euclidean space. So we can represent these two vectors using coordinates like this. So U can be represented by, let's say, x1, x2, xn. It has n coordinates, and V can be expressed also using y1, y2 up to yn, or n tuples of number, in other words. So you can see both points or n tuples of numbers. In the other video you can get it. So when you add the two vectors u plus v, which is simply adding the corresponding coordinates, so like this, which is x1 plus y1, x2 plus y2 up to xn plus y. This is how we add the two vectors. And when you come to the magnitude, the norm of u plus v, the whole square, which is given by the sum square of each coordinates, so which is x1 plus y1 the whole square plus x2 plus y2 the whole square plus xn plus yn the whole square. So this is the way you get the magnitude of the two vectors using the algebraic method, or we call it component wise method. So this is simply like the distance of 2 points, that is the first point is the origin to the other point is this one, u plus v. So you can use the distance formula. This is the distance formula between 2 points, this one. Thank you for watching.